what a great representation from the total public safety industry. I'm going to talk a lot about a fire, but as the chief said, this same principle applies to law enforcement, applies to EMS, and it applies to our customers. So I'm going to talk about a fire that happened in 2007 in Charleston, South Carolina. It's the Sofa Superstore fire. That's the occupancy that the fire occurred in. 2007, to some of you in the room, seems like a million years ago. It's like the 1950s to me. And the hairstyles are starting to change and stuff like that. But I think that today's firefighters are unfortunately mostly in the same position as the firefighters were in 2007. They're essentially going to the moon when they go inside the building. They might as well be 100 miles away when they're inside. Anybody here from South Carolina? All right. Oh, only one person. And he's from Charleston, too. I'll mock South Carolina a little bit, but not too badly, because Drew's in the room. All right, so the Charleston Fire Department was not a little fire department. The average career fire department in the United States is less than 50 people. They were at almost 250 people. 14 stations with 19 fire companies, a big department. They were ISO Class 1. The Insurance Services Office at the time came out and it would rate your fire department. It would look at your procedures, your water supply, your staffing, your apparatus, and it would give you a grade. And Class 1 was the highest in the country. And I think it put them into a sense of false confidence in their department. They provided fire protection. They did a little bit of EMS, not too much emergency medical services, and a little bit of hazmat and rescue work as well. The Charleston that you know from the TV commercials and the tours is the peninsula. That's the old downtown part of Charleston. And they had a lot of resources there. They had 2 engines, 3, 4, 5 engines, and a truck on the island. But the fire actually happened West Ashley, in the West Ashley part of town, which is Charleston, on Savannah Highway. Where does Savannah Highway go to from Charleston? Savannah, exactly. They named it very well. So there are some resources over there, some Charleston fire stations in the red. The yellow are a different fire department that they didn't play very well with. As a matter of fact, they hated each other so much they drive past each other's stations going to fires. That's just sin number one. The Superstore itself was a giant retail occupancy. This is really 3 buildings here, and then a giant warehouse at the back. So this is all single story. We talk about X, Y, and Z. If we had X and Y for this fire, we wouldn't be talking about this fire. It would have come out much differently. The warehouse was high storage, but there are no firefighter fatalities in the warehouse. So it was a giant building, really 3 sections built at 3 different times. The fire code in South Carolina at the time said that if you put fire doors between these wings, they essentially were separate buildings, so there were no fire sprinklers in the building at all. It was the flagship store of a local retail chain called the Sofa Superstore. It was their big store. The interior of that big, giant area had 2 walls in it, really. And then it was all set up as suites inside. Is the mic going in and out? Is it going in and out, or is it staying good? It's a little bit? All right, I'll talk louder. In that area, there were aisles and stuff, but the aisles were furniture on one side, furniture on the other. So when hose lines started to get in there, it knocked the aisles all out of the way and really skewed the interior of the building. So again, it was 3 interconnected structures, a total of 31,000 square feet for the store. It sat on Savannah Highway. It's not fair to use the pointer always on one screen, right? So it sat on Savannah Highway. The water supply of the store, there were 2 hydrants to the rear, but you couldn't lay a line from the rear to the front. All the water came from the front of the store. The fire was first reported by a passerby. The store was open at the time. It was 7 o'clock or so in the evening. Store was open. The staff of the store was up in the retail area. The fire actually started in a loading dock at the rear of the store. Let me just back up a couple to this picture here. The fire started right in this loading dock area here in a pile of trash that was laid there. When they unwrapped your furniture, all the wrapping paper went there at the end of the day. If you had an old piece of furniture they took away, if they could donate it to another cause, they would. If they couldn't donate it, it ended up in this pile as well. The fire was probably caused by careless disposal of smoking materials. There were 5 warehouse workers that ATF interviewed. All of them were smokers, but all of them had given up smoking on that particular day, if you believe that. All right, so the store is open. There's workers inside the store. A passerby comes by and says, "Your store is on fire." So the first thing the manager does is he sends a couple people to the back of the store with fire extinguishers. They open the door to the loading dock. They see nothing but red inside the loading dock. They bravely dump those 5-pound dry chemical extinguishers into the loading dock area, and it does nothing. They close the door, and someone calls the fire department. So the first dispatch is at 1907. It's 7:07, almost 7:08 p.m., and this is the call.
Dispatch at engine 11, engine 10, ladder 5, battalion 4, good unit for possible structure. Dispatch at engine 11, engine 10, ladder 5, battalion 4, starter route to 1807 Savannah Highway behind the super store, super sofa store. Possible 7-6, 1909 hours.
So that accent is a South Carolina accent called Geechee. I can't explain it to you, but that's what they call it. He's a real good guy. He's a retired firefighter. So those units respond. Engine 11, Engine 10, Ladder 5, Battalion 4 all respond. Car 2, that's the shift commander, happens to be in a station nearby, and when he hears that there's smoke, he takes the call in. When Battalion 4, so the first due engine, Engine 11, hears in the dispatch that the fire's to the rear of the Sofa Superstore, so they drive around a back street to get to the back of the building. As soon as they turn on the back street, they know they're in the wrong place, and they do the block. But what that does is makes Battalion 4 the first unit on the scene, and he gives a report.
Battalion 4, 1097, bunch of trash in the street burning alongside the building. 10-4, Chief. Battalion 4, dispatch. We got it right up against the wall. And for all units, y'all heard the Chief.
Y'all heard the chief. So what the chief said is that he was on the scene, it was a bunch of trash burning at the back of the building, and it might have gotten into the building. He wasn't sure at that point. So that's the initial report for arrival on the scene. So Engine 11 does the block. They come around to the front of the building, and they actually go to the front door of the building. Car 2, the shift commander, arrives and goes and face-to-faces with Battalion 4 for just a moment, and then he goes inside the store by himself. They don't declare. The Charleston Fire Department was profoundly screwed up at this time. They don't declare an offensive strategy. It was just compulsory offensive strategy for them. So Engine 10 arrives next, and they back down the alley to where the fire was in the debris, because that's where the fire is to them. So they back down the alley, and they pull a boost reel, and they start to fight the fire. And then there's another report for Battalion 4.
Battalion 4, car 2. Chief, I know it's inside that part of the building right there. 10-4, that's the engine 12. 10-4.
So Battalion 4 tells the shift commander, they're probably looking at each other from the way they're talking, is that the fire's inside that part of the building. So they know it's inside the loading dock area at the back of the building. It's not just the debris pile outside. The debris pile actually was pushed up under the building, so what probably happened is it burned up through the floor, got access to the storage room. The storage room was where all the furniture that's going to be delivered tomorrow was waiting, because they couldn't keep it in the trucks because people would steal it out of the trucks outside. So all that furniture, what's furniture made of these days in America? Is it horsehair and cotton like when I was a kid? No, it's all petroleum product. It's all plastic. So there's a ton of energy in that room getting ready to burn inside that room. They know it's inside the building. You heard at the very last there, the shift commander asked to send me Engine 12. At the time of the fire, Charleston didn't have an alarm system like is common in most of the rest of the world. The battalion chief just called for who he wanted. So if he liked you or if he hated you, he'd either bring you in or leave you out. So he liked the captain on Engine 12, so he asked for Engine 12, even though they weren't the next unit. So now they've got 4 engines or 3 engines, a ladder, and a battalion chief and a shift commander on a fire in a 31,000 square foot building. It's amazing. So this is what they were looking at from the street. This is the first picture we have of the scene. See ladder 5 parked to the right, Engine 11 at the very front door of the building, and it doesn't look that bad. It doesn't look like it's a giant fire. It doesn't look like the towering inferno, so that's what they're looking at. The fire's actually in the red part. It's in that storage room at the back, and it's pretty much confined to the storage room. You have Engine 10 back down the alley, Engine 11, ladder 5 at the front. Most of the other units that come just park in the middle of Savannah Highway. Right now, there's no supply line laid for the engine, so they're just working off of their tanks that are on the apparatus. Engine 12 has laid a line to Engine 10, and Engine 16 is in the process of laying a line for Engine 11, but they're 2.5-inch line, so it's 1,000 feet of 2.5-inch line. The firefighters in the room know what I'm talking about. It's like breathing through a straw. By the time the water gets to the scene, there's no energy left in it. There's no flow left in it when it's laid out for that long, and that's just another problem that the Charleston Fire Department had. Too fast or too slow? All right, cool, all right. So at this point, it's 25 after the hour. So we started out at about 8 minutes after the hour, and now it's 25 minutes after the hour. So things have progressed really rapidly. At this point, the showrooms are filling with smoke. It's a cold, thick smoke in the storage rooms at this point. There are 16 firefighters operating inside a place where they have no idea where they are. They know the fire generally. When they first get in there, the firefighters that went in said it was clear as a bell inside the store, and then it just sort of dropped, just like pulling a curtain on a window, and went to black. They know that the fire's toward the back. They're back there putting water on the fire, but they say as they put water on the fire, as soon as they turn to another area of the fire, that side flares back up again. So they're just trying to hold it where it is. They have an 1.5 inch, which is a small attack line, and a booster line, a red line, which is even a smaller line, in service at this time. And they brought a 2.5 in. A 2.5 is a much bigger, has much more firepower than an 1.5 inch. They brought it in, but it's not charged yet because they don't have water at the front door, and they have a rule in the fire department there that you don't charge a 2.5 unless you have a water supply. And the temperature's beginning to rise in the building. So now the firefighters don't know is the fire's beginning to spread. It's spread through a metal wall into the warehouse. And the warehouse ends up burning to the ground. It's not really tactically significant in the fire. But what's more important to the firefighters is in the storage room, there's an anteroom to the storage room, and there's no ceiling in that anteroom. So all the products of combustion from the furniture that's burning in the storage room is going through into the ceiling, and it's filling the interstitial space above the fire, or above the showrooms, with really icky smoke. That's a scientific term. Really icky smoke is ready to burn. It's got fuel, it's got heat. What it doesn't have is oxygen. So this is an oxygen-starved fire at this time. So the firefighters, though, the smoke is so thick inside, you literally can't see your hand in front of your face, and they're unaware that the fire is beginning to extend. What they don't know, this is a shot from the outside at 1923, is that the warehouse is back here, the big building to the back. You can see the blinky lights from the engine there. The fire is actually advancing through the attic over their heads, and they don't know that it's going on at this time. So at the very back is the warehouse. This is the engine at the side, and the fire's actually up into the store. They don't know that. So these pictures are taken from where an incident commander would normally be. But in this particular fire, the incident commander was right in the thick of it, as he thought was the right thing to do, as was the tradition in Charleston at the time. If the incident commander had been away, the incident commander could have seen the fire spreading in the building, could have potentially evacuated firefighters at this time. It's just a number of missed opportunities inside the building. So that's at 23 and 24. So the fire's really moving in the attic, unbeknownst to them. Like a lot of fires, something else happens that distracts attention from everybody. So it's a whole bunch of stuff that happens right now in the fire. There's a report of a citizen trapped in the building. Go ahead.
Dispatcher, call 1. 9-4, be advised, we're getting a 911 call stating that there is a person trapped in the building, at the back of the building,
So that's the dispatcher reporting to the fire chief at the scene that they had a 911 call from a worker that was trapped in the building. It was all the way in the back of the building, at the back of the retail space in a storage room. The fire chief is at the front of the building. He looks around. Every firefighter that's on the scene is inside the building or operating the pump on a piece of apparatus, so they cannot go in. So one of the other fire department, St. Andrews, took the fire in. They saw the smoke. They were in a restaurant nearby celebrating one of the firefighters' birthdays, and a civilian walked in and asked him, "Hey, are you guys going to that big fire down the street?" And they had no idea because the St. Andrews Fire Department and the Charleston Fire Department hated each other. They didn't talk to each other. So they walked out of the restaurant. They saw a big black column of smoke, so they responded to the scene. They walk up and they offer their help, and at first the fire chief tells them to take a walk because they hate each other so much. But then he's got a civilian rescue to do. He's got no firefighters around him, so he sends them around the side of the building with the building manager around the left-hand side of the building. The building manager brings him to a metal wall, a sheet metal wall, and tells him if he's in there, he's right here. So one of the firefighters takes an axe and just chops a hole in the wall, a little slit, and out comes a hand. Just by the grace of God, they hit at the exact right position. The firefighters told us they opened up the hole a little bit more, and they say they didn't have to open it up very much because he was very motivated to come out for some reason. So he was out and he was rescued, thank God. So at this point, the trapped employee has been rescued. Smoke has begun or is banked down inside the store from floor to ceiling. You'll see a picture in a couple minutes. Still have 16 firefighters inside the store. Only one inch-and-a-half line in service. It's a 500-foot line. The firefighters in the room know that a 500-foot inch-and-a-half is not giving you very much. They also had the nozzle set to very low gallonage there, 60 gallons a minute, so it's not really doing all that much. No supply line yet to the front of the store. They do have a supply line to the rear. The St. Andrews Fire Department has now started to fight a fire in the warehouse, but again, it's not tactically significant. And I say no incident commander because the fire chief really wasn't acting as an incident commander at that point. This is the civilian being rescued by the St. Andrews Fire Department. You can imagine if you're a Charleston firefighter and this is in the newspaper, you spent your whole life hating St. Andrews Fire Department and they make a rescue at a really big fire in your community. It was awful for them. You have to sympathize. All right, so inside, the engineer, the driver of Engine 6 encounters firefighters in distress. They walk up to him and they tell him that they're almost out of air, they're lost, and they don't know which way to go to get out. He's on the line. He knows where the hose line is. That's usually the lifeline that firefighters use to get out of a building or to find their way to safety inside a building is to follow the hose line out. He's on it. He knows, but the firefighters will not listen to him. One of them crawls literally under his legs and crawls away. The other one disappears into the smoke, and they end up dying in the fire. So he knows that firefighters are in trouble. Radio messages start from the firefighters talking that they're in distress, but nobody at the scene hears those calls for help. They're not very solid anyway, but nobody on the scene hears them. The only person that hears them is an off-duty battalion chief coming to the scene for the fire. He tries to contact the fire chief and tell him that there are distress calls inside, but the fire chief does not hear him. So Engineer 6 encounters another firefighter in the showroom, and he leads him to safety, and they walk out the door at 7:33. So again, we're starting at about 7:08. We're at 7:33 right now. You can see how fast things go, and these are some of the distress calls. Which way out? That's the 2.5 being charged. We need some help out. We need some help. That's the off-duty battalion chief. He's lost connection with the hose. That's the fire chief.
What's my closest unit to the 76?
I'm in the building.
We're trying to get into this guy now.
That's them talking about the civilian rescue.
What's my closest unit to the 76?
Engine 3 is relocating to Station 16.
I tell them I want them to come to the 76. And I want them to wait the line to the inner line, the line to the circle. I'll have dispatcher, we got the man.
So at the very last there, you hear the battalion chief say, "We got the man." He's talking about the civilian that they made the rescue from. The firefighters inside are calling for help, and they hear the battalion chief report that, and you hear a firefighter say, "What?" On the radio or something similar to that. So right now you have at least 9 firefighters in the building, completely lost, off the hose line, can't see their hands in front of their face. There's a bunch of competition for the radio because of the civilian rescue that's happening on the outside, and they don't know which way to go. For the firefighters in the room, maybe your ear heard the vibra alerts going off on the face pieces of the firefighters that were inside. So they're low on air or out of air and are asking for help from the outside. But they might as well be on the moon. They're so far inside the building, and it's such a large building with a weird floor plan, they might as well be on the moon. So at this point, it's 1931. You see that there's been a line laid to the engine at the front door, but for the firefighters in the room, what do you notice about the line at the front door, the supply line coming in? It's kinked. There's not enough energy left in the line when it gets there. It's coming from so far, and the hose line is so small, the pressure in the line and the flow can't even knock the kinks out. So there's not much water coming in to help with the firefight at that point. But you can see the fire's changed. It's gone from being kind of a wispy white smoke to an icky black smoke. So at the front door, the St. Andrews crew, they've just completed the rescue of the civilian, and there's still no firefighters on the scene. You heard the fire chief calling for the next unit. The fire chief tells him to go in and get his guys, the St. Andrews crew, to go in. So this is them getting ready to go in. It's a little bit hard to see in this light, but you can see as the battalion chief opens the door, there's some really dark, thick, black, icky smoke coming out which makes it very difficult for the firefighters to see when they get in there. But before they even make it in the door, they're ordered to break out the windows at the front of the store. It's been a big controversy in the fire service. Should they have broken the windows out? Should they not have? Surprisingly, no one recalls giving an order that day to break the windows, but the thinking was at the time, break the windows, make some noise, clear out some smoke. Maybe the firefighters that are inside that are lost will see light or hear the noise from the front of the building and go that way. But it doesn't work out that way. Please, Chief. Mayday. Someone calling for car 1.
I love you. Everybody stay off the radio.
That's the fire chief telling everybody to stay off the radio. The prayer at the end was Melvin Champagne. He's a firefighter that died in the fire. He was actually a deacon in his own church, and that was him, praying to God at the last minute. It's hard to hear. So at the front door again now, the fire chief is the guy here in the white helmet on the right. The last firefighters to make it out, Engine 6's crew are emerging, and it's difficult to see again in this light, but the lieutenant or the captain on that company is reaching for his regulator because he's flat out of air as he comes out the door. It's a miracle that they got out of the building. They happened to find the hose line, and they were able to get out, but they're the last ones to come out. So the order's been given to break the windows. If you see here on the left, the first window's out. There's a firefighter standing there with an axe, and the first window's out. What do you notice about the window being out at this point? There's no smoke coming out. So it's an oxygen-starved fire. What the building does is it takes a big breath in. These are the rest of the St. Andrews crew. All these windows are out here, but you notice there's very little or no smoke coming out of those windows because the fire's taken a big breath in. But about a minute later, this is 1935, about a minute later, it reverses direction and starts puking out this very, very, very thick smoke. So the two St. Andrews firefighters do go in and try and make a rescue. Battalion Chief 303, the off-duty battalion chief that heard the distress calls originally, he and the engineer of 6 go in and try and search. They all end up getting burned because the fire is coming. They're forced to retreat after going just a short distance inside because the fire just pushes them out the front door. And then at 1937, so we started about 1908, 1909. So at 1937, less than a half an hour later, the flames reach the front windows, and the fire chief a minute later gives the order to abandon the building. The Battalion Chief 303 and the Engineer 6 make one more try in the building, but they can't find anybody. It's really futile. So the fire comes through the front of the building. The fire is now advanced into the showroom, and the firefighters say you could almost watch it walk across the floor as it got close to the front of the building. So in just a couple minutes, there's fire running out of every window at the front of the building, and there's really no point. This is 1939, so it's not very much later. So there's really no point in going inside the building. Anybody that's in there is gone. The roof did collapse, but the collapse isn't what caused their deaths. They ran out of air. They had very high carboxyhemoglobin levels at autopsy, so they basically just ran out of air and wandered around inside the building trying to find their way out. So the locations that the firefighters were found, there were 2 firefighters here, very close to the front entrance of the building. It's only 40 feet from where those 2 firefighters were found to the front entrance of the building. What a waste. It might have well, but at that time, with the amount of fire and the amount of smoke that was in there, they might as well have been on the moon. The one firefighter I want to point out, Beatty, went all the way to the back of the warehouse, went through a couple offices at the back, knocked a bunch of stuff off some shelving at the back, and ran into a brick wall, and he died right there. So they did make efforts to get out, but they were not able to get out. Again, all of them died of a combination of carboxyhemoglobin, poisoning, and heat injuries. So these are the 9 firefighters that died. I could tell you stories about all of them. We spent a lot of time in Charleston at that time. And I also want to thank the chief for mentioning Brett Tarver. Brett Tarver died at the Phoenix Fire Department in 2001, right before 9/11. He was on the radio calling a mayday. Unfortunately, a news helicopter above the scene at the time was broadcasting the fire department radio live over television and broadcast his mayday. And his wife was not watching television, but all her friends called and said, "Hey, Brett's trapped in a warehouse or in a grocery store." He, as the chief said earlier, he ran out of air, breathed in a bunch of bad smoke, Carbon monoxide makes you crazy or silly or makes you make bad decisions in the beginning. So he was contacted by rescuers but wouldn't go with them. And then he disappeared into the smoke. He was a big guy. It took him a long time to find him. By the time they found him, he was dead. But again, if we had the ability in both of these fires to understand where firefighters are in the building, to understand where responders are, to understand where our customers are, or the people that are calling 911 are, I think it would change the world. We called it, in Phoenix, we called it the Holy Grail. If there's a technology out there that'll show us where firefighters are in the building, there's no other technology that would be more important to the fire service. So I talked a lot about fire in this presentation. It's not just about fire, though. It's about all the public safety services. We want to make sure that we address that today in these presentations. And I want to thank you for your time. And can I answer any questions? Easy questions? No? All right, well, thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.